Okay, the next method is the software filter, and we're going to set this up. This is a fairly elaborate but very effective way that I still use today to soften skin. Very effective way. So we're going to hit Command Option Shift E to make a copy, and then hit Command J to make a copy of that. So we've put in 2 layers. Now I know I'm pixel loading, and I know that this is not what I want to do, but it is necessary for me to be able to accomplish this. So this first one I'm going to call Darken, and this next one I'll call Lighten. And I'm going to put the Darken in Darken Blend mode and the Lighten in Lighten Blend mode. And with those blend modes, we're going to select the Darken layer. We're going to go under Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and to keep things kind of straight, we're going to add 20 pixels of blur. Now you might want to go plus or minus that, I'm not really sure. It really depends on what your desired results are. So you should have something that looks kind of like that. So now we've done the Lighten, and we're going to duplicate that filter by just going Filter, at the very top, Command F, Gaussian Blur, Filter to the Lighten Blend mode. And then we're going to go and make each of them 50%. 50% darken and 50% lighten. And now we have them a nice combination of that softening. So now what we need to do is combine those. So let's turn everything else off so we can see what it looks like. And you should have something that looks like that. And now if you hit Command E to flatten those, you will get it in darken blend mode. But we're going to go back to normal, and we're going to call this now Softar. Because now we have just made our Softar filter. So now we can basically turn everything back on, and you can see that softening is now built on one layer. It's got 50% dark and 50% light and built into one layer, and it can be very helpful. Now you may find through experimentation that you might find a different combination works better for you. With this, we're going to hit Command J one more time, which means we're going to duplicate that Softar filter, and this we're going to call Median Noise. And here's where we're going to add a little bit of texture back. And here we're going to, with this selected, we're going to go to Filter, Noise, Median Noise, and 20 pixels again. And again, your number may be different, but for the sake of it being easy, 20 is a pretty good number, pretty average number that we're going to work with, and it's pretty close to what you'd want to be at anyway, but you may want to finesse this a little bit further if you work with it. So now we've got, if we look a little bit closer, we've got softening going on here, and we've got this noise on top of it. It adds kind of a raspy texture, not the texture what I would call skin texture, but it does add to that process. So now let's bump this out, and now all I'm going to do here is add a mask. And I'm going to go to the Softar filter first, and I'm going to add a mask. And here I'm going to paint out using black as my main tool. I'm going to get a 100% brush, 100% flow, and I'm going to do the areas that I want 100% done. Things like inside the eyes, right, not on the edge, just the inside and the inside of the mouth. Maybe a touch on her earrings, maybe a little bit of the interior of this bracelet, and that's all I'm going to really touch there. And then I'm going to go back to my 50% brush with 50% flow, and maybe even less, maybe like 25% opacity. Now, you might ask, where these numbers come from? Well, through experimentation and through time. But I always make adjustments to the flow and the opacity of my brush and the softness and the hardness of my brush. So here we are always working hot, so I don't care if this is too soft. What I'm curious about is making sure that I'm pulling the softness away from the areas that I don't want soft anymore. So I hit the eyebrows, I hit the edge of the eyes a little bit. And this is nice because with the stylus I can kind of draw like a crayon or a pencil and go over the top. And I'm going to do the same thing we did before with the inverted high pass. You're going to see more effect here, but I'm basically bringing the edges in. So I'm doing the earrings, doing the edges here, and then I'm going to do the contours as well. So I want to make sure that I'm going to hit the edges of her face, even where she goes over her skin, to kind of separate the two. You see the separation I start to get? And then the same thing with the nose. And then I'm going to go through the rest of the image. Maybe do the transitions of her hair. And her hair has got that kind of nice soft effect. I don't like it so much in the ears, but it's got a nice softening effect. So I might want to just painterly dab in a couple of strokes and leave some of that softening in the hair, because I think that kind of looks nice. I want to see some detail in the hair for sure, but I don't mind seeing it kind of a little bit more, less raggedy, let's say, and a little bit more flowing, or a little bit smoother. So let's get the brush again. Let's do the edges. Get a little bit smaller brush, and we'll do the edges here, the edges of my bracelet. And you're seeing what I'm doing here, so I'm just doing this mask. And I'm doing the edges and the contours, again, of her collarbone and this little contour here. The edge of her dress, I'm handling. And then I'm the interior of her dress. Doing a little bit more towards 100%. And I'll do the edges, and I can do the same thing with this mask by hitting that / key and getting an idea of how and where I've applied that mask and how heavy and where areas are that I might have missed. And I can go through those areas and make sure, like, I want to hit her hair a little bit more so it's not too soft in those areas. So there I have that, and now we're going to move to taking this mask to the noise filter. So if I hit the / key to move this mask, which now looks like this, if I want to move that mask up to the media noise filter, if I hold the Option key down while doing this, and I just move it up, it'll copy that up there. So now I get the same effect on here. But what I'm going to need to do with this mask, and I'm not going to bore you with this, is I'm going to need to thicken this mask up. So I need to really overdo the intensity of this mask. So this mask is looking the same, so I'm going to need to go through these areas and make sure that they're a little bit more, they're thicker, they're darker when they need to be darker, because the median noise filter has now expanded the effect, and you're going to get some haloing, so you're going to need to go back and finesse this a little bit. So I'll be right back when I'm done with that.